the PIP Council, the parents that volunteered to bring food in. It was awesome. Is Sarah in here, Kim, or is she still out there? Okay, we'll let her talk in just a minute. Okay, Sarah's representing the PIP Council tonight, so we'll let her talk in just a second. We want to tell you a little bit about who we are and how the school works, and hear a little bit about who you are and what questions you might have. Just really glad that you came tonight to kind of be a part of the best start ever. Are you tired of the emails yet? Are you doing okay? Okay.
It's better than a rainforest, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we want to have that process. So we were just talking about the parent volunteers who brought in all that lovely food. Sarah, do you want to tell them your role in the PIP Council and what the PIP Council is?
All right, I'm on the PIP Council. It's Parents in Partnership. We work a lot with the volunteer opportunities for you guys at the school and various functions that you may hear about. So things like staff meals, picture days, spring celebration, different things like that you hear about in your emails that go home on Mondays. We work a lot with that and coordinating with you guys to have your volunteer times here at the school. So just pay attention to those emails and the different sign-ups that come out. And if you ever have questions, we're just PIP@shinyminds.com. The PIP is very simple to remember. Feel free to shoot us emails and ask us and be glad to help you.
Awesome. Great. Any other PIP Council members here tonight? Andy, is she on PIP Council?
She does our book there.
Yeah.
She's out there helping. She's helping us.
So, thousands, about 5,000 hours of volunteer time people give every year. So they can get you set up, whether that's subbing and volunteering, which that's September 5th at 7 o'clock. So we hope to see most of you back here again to do that workshop. So, and then as well as all kinds of different activities that they do throughout the year. We're doing something new this year. You might have seen it in one of the notes home about the bonfire, right, in October. So we're a little nervous, but mostly we're excited, and it'll be great. So there'll be some tips and s'mores and things. So that'll be really fun. So there's some other staff members here. I'd like them to introduce themselves to you as well. So we'll start over here.
Hi, my name is Prerna. You mostly have already coordinated with me about the learners enrollment process. I take care of administrative services. If you have questions about your learners enrollment, fees, billing, you can come speak to me. I sit out here in the CUCLA right next to Barbara's office, so I'm easy to spot. You're always welcome in my office, and I'll be happy to help you any way I can.
So the fax payment bills are going to be ready to go out. Some of you, how many are early ed right now? Okay. And how many of you do extended learning? Okay. So you're just getting ready to get something from her, right?
You should have already received an email asking you to set up your account and log in and give your details, and then just put the charges in, and you can. That's step forward.
And she's also really important if your email address changes, because she's the one that gets it right in the computer so that it comes through back to you. So great. Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Wiesinger. I'm the Expansion and Development Coordinator for the school, and I do a lot of different things. Right now, our big project you'll hear about is called the Cross the Day Curiosity. In addition, we're trying to do for the school, so I'm fundraising for that. I also do a lot of the marketing for the school and give tours when it's not related to becoming a parent for the school, and just supporting all the things like that for people that want to learn more. So happy to answer any questions for you, and I'm in the same area as Prerna and Kelly right in the front as you come in.
And I'm Brandy. I'm at the clerk desk, and I support health services, and with Kim, we do all the medicines, or if your kiddo's sick, they come to see me. I'll give you a call home if they need that. Any medicines administered at school, I'm the one that handles that. We go over health plans. And then I support Kim and the other CUCLA staff with additional tasks as needed.
So if your child is identified with asthma this year and you want them to have their inhaler at school or self-carry it, Brandy's your girl to start with.
I've got your papers.
And so Ashley Giles kind of works in conjunction with her if you're already been communicated with her as a health plan. Ashley is a nurse practitioner that will help support the doctor's orders and so forth to create the health plan that then Brandy here. So, great. Kim, you want to go?
I'm Kim. You'll find me at the Kirk desk. I'm usually the first person you'll see. I do multi things along with Brandy. I'm here to assist you and help you and guide you, and you need me more. Right in there.
I'm Kelly. I'm also up front with Brenda and Melissa, Administrative Services and Finance. So I'm here once the people to oversee and thank the staff and themselves.
We're giving a lot of love to Kelly right now because she has our first audit coming up at the end of this month. So, you know, you come by and you want to just bring you can start chocolate that you like. Shannon?
Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm in the Sycamore with Tracy in the teens program.
That's great.
And I'm manning the camera.
You what?
I'm manning the camera.
Manning the camera. Casey?
Oh, hey, I'm Casey Bauer. I'm in Cypress Studio, also in the teens program with Shannon. Although today I'm here as a new family, new parent, so very excited.
We get all the staff. We also have a board member here, putting him on the spot, Sridhar Ramachandran, and so we're glad to see you. He's also a parent as well, so we do have a couple parents on the board. I'll kind of talk about who the board is and the history of the school a little bit and so forth. Please interrupt if I say something or you're like, what do they do? Or if I need to go where, just, this is informal. There is a camera, but other than that, it's very informal. This is just so that you can go back and replay this beautiful new shirt that I have over and over again. People have been talking about my shirt all day. So let's talk about our staff. So did you see this picture on the notes home? Do you know what it means? Does anyone want to share what that means? Why we were
The at symbol?
It's the at symbol? Yeah, it probably looks like the at symbol. It has a Montessori context to it. Does anyone do your reading in the notes home? Let's see who I can pick on. No, I'm not going to pick on anyone. Anybody want to share? Well, yeah, so part of it's the spiral curriculum because the Montessori philosophy, things keep adding and adding to and so forth. It's also about how everything's related. Marie Montessori called it the cosmic curriculum, so the shirts that we have on that represent kind of the cosmos, the child's the cosmos, and everything's the cosmos. So it really talks about how all things are related. So, you know, in a traditional school, you might start kindergarten, first grade with this is an A, this is a B. In a Montessori school, we start first with the context of what was the first sound ever spoken by a human? What was the first word, do you think? You know, and then we start talking about the history, what the Phoenicians believed. You know, how did the alphabet begin? And so we start with the context of that and then we go into what the letters are. So that kind of represents this cosmic curriculum that everything's related and has a bigger picture. We call it the cosmic big history curriculum, and we did in the teens program, if you've heard of the big history by David Christian. It also kind of goes all the way through the high school part too. So. Go ahead, Brenda, keep us going. So this is the teen staff. See Casey in there, pointing it out. So these are all the members of the teen staff community, so that's 12 through 18-year-olds. Keep going. There's the cupola staff. So Glenn is around here. We had a kind of a computer catastrophe, so he's working on that today, so you may not see him out of the computer room, but we had some our vendors in here today kind of helping us solve a problem. Many of you see Mike around. Mike is our environmental services staff, and then everybody else. Okay. And Presley, who's met Presley? So Presley is kind of our, Sridhar loves Presley. Presley is our family dog. Actually, my oldest daughter wanted to adopt one more dog and bond with him before she went away to high school. So we brought him back from our summer trip in Florida, and as a rescue. So he's a Labradoodle mix. We took him through pet therapy classes. He was in pet therapy with the Red Cross for a while, and he comes here almost every day. So children come in and read with him and so forth. So you're welcome to walk in. He is very gentle. If your child's scared of dogs, oftentimes this is a good place to start. People are like, how old is he? Well, he's only 7, but he seems like he's 100. He's very wise, soul with a long beard. He can usually assess if you need some support or love on a given moment. So sometimes staff come in as well, like, oh, I just want to sit with Presley for a little bit. So there's a little couch back here in my space, and a lot of times he'll lay there. So if you don't see him, he might be on the couch. And so children and adults come sit back there with him or come sit on the floor with him. So you're welcome to do that too. We just ask that you walk into the space because he's trained to kind of stay in, but if you call him out, he will come. So this kind of helps in that process. So history of community Montessori. I think the history of things, I've been going around to the teen studios. I'm going to ask you in a minute why we call them studios to see if you remember. Is to start thinking about, how the school began. And I think it's so interesting how people are all such a part of the process. And so my husband and I, my undergraduate degree was in education. I thought I knew schools and learning. I decided in a very shallow way that I was going to choose secondary education over elementary. And then I eventually got very interested in learning. When I went to college, I didn't have a good concept of what the Midwest was, where geography was, what was the difference between the American Revolution and Civil War. And so I thought, I'm going to study history and world history and major in social studies, because I really wanted to understand that in a different way. Got really excited about that. I actually got so involved in what was happening in Germany in the late 1980s. My sister lived in Berlin. That a couple of the professors in the world history courses had me come in and talk about my experience with that, which again, when you have an interest about something, which is a big part of the Montessori philosophy, you can really learn. I mean, I hadn't read a full book since I was a sophomore in high school, and I was reading 12, 15 books every couple of months for my courses. So it really helped me to develop a real love of learning and understanding that. And actually, when I was in Germany in 1987, I believe, the wall came down, and my sister and I got up on top and celebrated with the masses. So that was really cool. But when we returned, Glenn and I got married. We had our first child, had our second child. We thought, what do we believe? What do we think about learning and education? What I understood was about this much about Montessori. I didn't even know about it. And we saw a segment on 60 Minutes, and I thought, how is it that I went through 4 years of college and didn't learn what Montessori education was? So we went to visit a school. I went one day, my husband went the next, and we said, why don't we have this in our community? Went to the local superintendent here at North Lake County, Ed Adams. I said, how do we get a Montessori school started? He said, are you kidding me? Do you know how expensive Montessori schools are? I'm like, no, I have no idea. I just thought you could do anything. You're a superintendent. He said, if you find the money, I'll support it, but we just don't have the money to start something like that. So I thought, money. And so I started talking to a lot of school leaders, and what I learned was the private Montessori schools, there's pluses and minuses to all of it, right? A lot of times the private Montessori schools, when you find somebody that wants to really give a big gift to the school, sometimes it doesn't become a Montessori school in the same way it would if it didn't have somebody that was a large donor. So it bothered me to have a private school where people had to pay a lot of money. If you knew the history of Maria Montessori, she really started the philosophy in the very impoverished areas of Italy. And I thought, gosh, this should be for any child, not just a family that can afford that part of that. So as I kept researching and learning about it, I learned about charter schools. And I thought, wow, that's kind of the best of both worlds. You could be an independent public school, depending on how the law was written. In 1996, we didn't have the law. So I started lobbying with the law. There was a legislator up in Indianapolis, Teresa Lovers. And so she had written a charter school law, and I called her up and said, hey, I want to help. She said, that would be terrific. I need some grassroots people that want to do this. So each session I went up and lobbied with her and spoke to legislators. And much to our surprise, in 2001, the law passed. We had already started the school in 1998 with 59 children, about 3 miles from here off Grant Line Road, behind El Nepal and what's that chicken place? Lee's Chicken there. And we're in a little strip center. And does anyone know Matt Chalfant here? Yeah, Matt Chalfant shook my hand and did about $25,000 worth of work to that space. And because we didn't have anything, we didn't have money. We decided to start as a nonprofit, which is why Schreeder's on the board at the school. So when there was that process, do we start as a for-profit school or a nonprofit school? So a lot of times the children say, you and Glenn own this school. And I said, no, we don't. school, but we're employees at the will of the board. And so when you have a nonprofit organization, you have people out in the community that serve on that board that help to keep everything accountable. And as your charter school, there's even another layer of accountability to that, or many layers really. But their first role is to make sure that they approve policies, that they understand the process of what the school is doing so that they can approve those things. And then Ball State then granted us the charter. So in 2001, when the law passed, I got all of our families together. We had this little cafeteria at that point. We were at Highlander Point in an abandoned daycare center building. And we got, it was about a room about this size, and I said, okay, here's the pluses, here's the minuses. The pluses, of course, are that as a charter school, families could come without paying tuition. At that point, our tuition was about $5,000 a year. And everyone was like, that's a big plus, we love that idea. So the negatives are, we have to do standardized testing. Standardization of anything in Montessori philosophy is like oil and water. And so as you continue on your journey here at Community Montessori, you'll probably have questions about that. As the legislature and the philosophy of education continues to wax and wane throughout our nation, right? But the Montessori philosophy has been around for 100 years. And so with that, we look at children as individuals. We don't look at them as a grade level. And so it's very unnatural for us to think about, here's a third grader. These are all the things that we're going to pour into their heads. And instead we say, okay, we know what the state expects. We're going to follow the Montessori philosophy. We're going to keep an eye on these things. We're going to gauge where children are with that knowledge. But at the same time, we're going to follow the child. And so Marie Montessori taught us that process is very, very important. And that doesn't mean just let the child do whatever they want. That means helping that child to develop into the best they can be, right? As an individual, not because they've been coerced or been praised or been given treats or a pizza party, but because they develop an intrinsic motivation within them. So when you have a school that focuses on independence, self-regulation, intrinsic motivation, it's a different philosophy, right, than a lot of different schools in that process. So as you're learning about that, you're going to have lots of questions about how do you do that. Some people will be like, well, I believe in independence and I want my child to make their own decision. They haven't brushed their teeth in a month. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. It's not exactly what it means, right? So it doesn't mean that they get just to do whatever they want. We still set parameters, but we do so in a collaborative way when we can, and try not to be coercing or forceful. We don't use any kind of corporal punishment at the school. Some schools still do. And you won't even hear, I've never heard an adult raise their voice at a child, and I have heard that in other schools. So it's a more respectful process to that. Doesn't mean we're better or worse, it's just a different way that we focus. And we spend a lot of time, we have 3 days that we meet as a staff before kids come in, 4 in the summer, or 4 in the fall and 3 in the summer. And we spend a lot of time just talking about how we talk to children and how we build relationships. You're going to learn more about this later, but there's a gentleman named Sam Chaltain. Has anyone ever heard of Sam Chaltain? He's in DC. He's a kind of a change agent. He really wants to help empower not just schools, but schools are one of his main focuses right now, to help make stronger relationships with children and teachers. And it's become a need in some schools and some communities. So it's a thing that we probably do really well, but we always want to do better. Because we know that when we build that trust with another, we're sometimes mean us saying, I'm sorry, I fell short. Can we hit a reset? As much as it means, you know what, I'm not okay with this right now. We're going to take a break. And I want you to think about what's happening. I'll come back in a second. So it's a big part of what we want to do to help build relationships with young people and you, but also with them set boundaries when needed and be consistent and caring and compassionate and consistent and caring. So you get the point. So there's that process of constantly thinking about how we do what we do and do that part better. So we talked about charter school. Some of you did early ed. This is, even though we tell you a couple of different times before your child becomes in kindergarten, you go, what? What do you mean my child's going to go through the lottery? And so, yeah, that's kind of a state law. We don't get to control that. It's part of the charter school law. So there's the lottery. And because kindergarten is still not mandatory in Indiana, there can be a lottery in first grade too. It is that thing that's out there that we constantly try to support in a way that not try to have too many children at the 5-year-old age before they go to 6 and so forth. But that lottery is a part of that. We carry about 100 children on the wait list throughout the year, throughout the building. And so there's that, we have about 96% that return every year, which is really powerful. It makes us very humble in that process as well. First graduating class was 2011. Does anyone know Tori Murden? She's the woman that rode. Yeah, she's the president of Spalding now. She rode across the Atlantic Ocean. And so she didn't make it the first time, but she made it the second time. She almost died the first time. But anyway, she, in the second year of the school, when I was teaching full-time and being the leader of the school, we followed her first path, the class that I had. And about 7 of those kiddos were in the first graduating class in 2011. So our graduates, our seniors, when they come to that point in that last year, they create and design their own graduation. And so when we started with them thinking about what do you want to look like, who do you want to be their speaker and so forth, we started brainstorming, and Tori Morgan came up. She came and met with them and talked about what was important to them about things, and it was very, very dynamic. So Sridhar was one of their speakers last year, and it's very, very cool to see them come to full fruition with that. Any questions right now? I could talk forever. So you stop me anytime you guys. Okay. So things that look different. Our goal is to help you. We already said, studio. Why do we call it a studio? Couldn't we just say some normal words in this school? Huh? Have you ever felt like that? Why do you think? Why not just classroom?
Maybe to break in the role
Okay, yeah.
and create an environment that's not locked in, like a
Yeah.
classroom.
So if each of us think right now, picture of a classroom. Does it look anything like what you see out here? And so that was part of the reason too. It was like, gosh, you think of classroom, we think of high school. That's why we don't call it high school. What do you think about when you think of high school? Yell it out. Drugs. Drugs in lockers. No. Anything else? Yeah. What's that?
Monotony.
Monotony?
Yeah, I was thinking like boxes.
Yeah.
Like you're being to fit into a specific box. And
Yeah.
Classrooms and like boxes.
Yeah.
But I feel like this promotes collaborative energy.
Yeah, that just didn't fit for us, high school. So we call it the teens program, because the focus is again back on that child. But so that things that you can find a lot of resources on our website. One of our staff members, with the help of several other staff members, redid our website 2 years ago. Unbelievable, and it keeps growing. This year we have such talented people that have talents outside of what they do here. And so we have several professional photographers on staff, and so a couple of them went through during open house, if you saw them, and took pictures. Now they went off, we can turn it back on. Took pictures, and we're going to have a, what do we call it, Melissa?
A virtual tour.
A virtual tour of the school on our website. We put a timeline up. Is the timeline active right now?
It is up.
Yeah. Of the school and so forth. So it's constantly growing. Who's been to the bios page, the staff bios? Okay. So you've seen that, so you can really go and see who your teachers are. What do they like? You've got 3 dogs, we've got dogs, that kind of thing. So if you go to the website and you click on the right corner, it says current families, it takes you to another level of resources. So the family handbook link is there. Please read it. We read it and go over it every single year, I promise you. We don't put things in there we don't think that we do. So that's really important to me as a school leader, that we don't just say something. We're like, oh, that's been there for years. No one's ever done that, So we look at it each year. We go through it. Kelly and Prane and I to nauseam maybe this summer, that the employee handbook, and then we send it back out to the staff and say, okay, where did we fall short? What did we want to change this year that we missed, and so forth. So it's got some really good stuff in there. Also in the family handbook is an absence waiver. Who knows what an absence waiver is? Do you want to share?
So, an absence waiver is a form that you fill out and you give to your teacher, and the intention is to make sure, the intention is that you would describe how you're learning outside of school.
Yeah.
And so, you fill out the form, you give to your teacher, is it 2 weeks before the absence, intended absence?
Yeah.
And so that way, the teacher can improve that learning that you're going to be doing outside of school.
Yeah. So we believe learning happens all the time and everywhere. Obviously, we don't want you to take a dozen or so absent waivers throughout the year, but things happen, right? And families go and travel with work. They want to bring their child, and so oftentimes then they'll get together with the teacher and say, well, here was our plan. We really wanted our child to budget all of the gas money and the hotel and the food for our trip, and that would be right developmentally what they're working on, right? And so they would work out this plan that this is what they would do, this project, and oftentimes the child then comes back in and presents some of that back to the class. So when my sister got married a few years ago when my second daughter was very young, and she did this whole big PowerPoint presentation on what she learned and how Canada was different and similar to the United States and so forth. So we try to make that a learning process. And so if you did what the plan was, then the absence is waived. And so we really encourage you to do that in those days. Sometimes when a teenager gets older and they want to go out and spend a day shadowing somebody, well, there's other things that they do too, but that could be a reason for an absence waiver as well. Please read the emails. There's a lot of them, but we want to make sure that you're as informed as possible. And so you can always reply to them or reply to the studio emails. Cupola Notes comes out usually on Monday. Studio emails come out usually on Friday. If you don't get one in that mix, please let Karina know or Kelly know. We'll make sure that we get that changed for you.
Opt-in.
Yeah. Did you see that opt-in on the Cupola Notes yesterday? Did you know? Yeah. Did you know what that means? Anyone have questions about that? So, some people, when we went through and audited it last year, there was a whole lot of people that had opted out at one point. And then we had, 3 fire trucks here at the end of the year. And people were like, why didn't I get notified? And we sent a school messenger out. There wasn't a fire, everyone's safe, everything's fine. But we did send that out, and if people hadn't opted in, they didn't know what had happened. And it was a censor, but we had to wait for the police to clear the school for that. But we really do use that. I've got the app on my phone. Several staff members do. If we need to go to a safe place or we have a plan for all of our safety procedures, you'll know instantly because we can communicate to you from our phone if you opt in that way. So hopefully there's never a reason for that. Yes.
So that's like text alerts for something's happened or we're going to be closed because of inclement weather or whatnot.
Yeah, as far as the school part goes, it's only used for that, for inclement weather or for the emergencies. The studios are just now starting to use that function, so they might be asking you if you want to get messages or reminders of things like going out trip, that kind of thing. So, but right now, as far as the cupola staff, we just use it for those emergencies and inclement weather.
So would it be something that the grandparents or caregivers would want to sign up for as well?
I think we usually have just 2 spots on there for families.
Okay.
And so it's usually for the main 2 caregivers, whoever that is in your family.
Okay.
You already know this, but that multi-age environment, preferably if your child is in early ed, they started when they were 3, they would be in that environment for 3 years. We don't move them around to other environments during that time, mostly to keep that solid teachers that know that child, right? And so then when they move up, it's always a little bit like, I'm so used to these teachers, what do I do? You don't choose who the staff member goes to next, so I just want to give you that information up front. Just because, we had 2 children that went through here from the time they were 2.5 and 6. I never chose one class my child was in. I believe every single teacher in the school can do a fantastic job with every child, or they wouldn't be here. And so if there's a conflict with an adult, sometimes a parent will come in August and say, well, my child showed up in this studio, but that teacher kind of gave me a look last year and I don't feel comfortable. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. Let me help you have a conversation with them. This is what we ask children to do. And so we ask that same thing of our families, right? So if there is a conflict that you have, I will help you. I talk with families and staff and kids and staff and kids and families throughout the year because that's part of that holistic approach. I know it's hard for some of us. We want to just not deal with something that can be stressful, but we want our children to do that, right? We want them to develop those great conflict resolution skills. And we all know adults that still struggle with that, so we need to model that part well. Snack and lunches, each level has different parameters for that, so make sure you really read the handbook. Like early ed only does fresh fruits and vegetables. The teens program adds hard cheeses and multigrain crackers. But we really want to help you to help them. Sometimes a new teen will bring in ho-hos. And the parents are like, well, they said it was okay. I'm like, well, if you're not sure, verifying with the teen's always a good idea. Not that we shouldn't trust, but verifying's good. And so you can say, hey, just email your teacher, copy me on it, and just verify that that's okay, bring the ho-hos. And then there's chirping, right? And then they're like, I don't know, maybe we'll just bring apples. Well, So anyway, each level kind of has different parameters, but it's a really significant thing because children and teens, as they're hungry throughout the day, can go and eat and snack on something. It's really valuable at the early ed environment. Most of the time the parents are looking at the windows and they're going, oh, they will never eat that at home. I can't believe they're eating that here. They're eating kale or mango or something. You're like, I've been trying to get their beef up for months. So you just say, I noticed there was some mango. Maybe we should get some at Kroger today or whatever. Lunches, we really want to encourage you the one small dessert component of that. It's really hard for children to manage sugar. It's hard for adults, anybody in here to manage sugar. And so really supporting that, we just do one small dessert. That's like a little Reese cup, that a little side Reese cup like that, instead of an apple pie from Hostess, And so we really want to encourage that fresh fruits and vegetables, having them make their own lunches. Both my girls made their own lunches since the time they were 5 or 6. They did their own laundry since the time they were 7 or 8. And so it wasn't because I forced or coerced, we just made that a part of our routine. And once they were about 7 or 8, they did all the shopping for their lunches. And so we went every Sunday. And sometimes they had a budget, sometimes I wasn't that prepared, but we had a plan, and it couldn't be Lunchables, we had a process, we put parameters in place, and it really is beautiful when you get into the pattern of that. So I really encourage, no matter what your child's age is, find how they can support that process. A lot of you have already told me out there you have a cabinet for your child full of food that they can go and get when they want to, and that they come home each day and they wash their lunchbox out and they put the freezer pack in the freezer, and so there's different parts. So all children of all ages can do some part of that, and we really encourage as much independence as you can give them. It won't look perfect. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich is not going to look like your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, probably. It's okay, we're not judging you. Don't be alarmed if your young child, or your older child maybe, comes home with their shoes on the wrong feet. That does not affect every doctor I've talked to, anything with their feet. But we want them to have their own time. They'll figure it out. When their feet start growing, they're like, something feels different, something feels different. Is the buckle supposed to be on the inside or the outside? The outside. The discovery approach. Let them discover it instead of us telling them what they need to do with that. And so oftentimes the children are putting I love it, the fall, when you've got your new 3-year-olds and they bring their jackets for the first time, they go and put them on, and there's usually a process that the studios go through. Sometimes they lay it down and they put their arms in and the head's up here and they flip it over. And a lot of times they'll do that from this side and their hood is floating right now. And it's okay, it's just a part of the process. They don't care. We might say to them, does that feel okay to you? They're like, yep. It's okay. It's not going to hurt them. If they start to get cold, we'll ask them that question again. But they are much more resilient in that process. But what happens if each time you do it, they're like, no, wrong foot. Come on, let mom do it, right? Then they just come to you, Mom, put my shoes on. Dad, put my coat on. Dad, zip me, right? And so the more we can give them to do independently, the better success they're going to have as they grow. It is extremely important cognitively. I cannot tell you how much, I don't have any factual research on this, but in my experience, how much an independent child correlates to a brain development as they get older. Children that are the youngest in a family oftentimes have struggled with language development because a lot of times the older siblings all do the things for them, right? And so really thinking about that family structure, processing that, reflect with your partner about how you want to support them, and because it's hard, they're the baby, right? Could be if they're the youngest, and how do I still help them to be independent that same way. Birthdays are different every studio. Just ask and see what that process is for those studios. That prepared environment, 3 to 6-year-olds through teens, each one's different and they function differently. We really work on a pretty low voice, so only the person I'm talking to could hear me. And this isn't a voice that we would use in the studio, hardly ever. And so sometimes if they're doing a large group project, but it happens pretty rarely. And so if you come into the environment, that's why we do that volunteer sub workshop, because if you ever want to volunteer, you have to do this workshop. If you can't come on September, it's the 5th. I keep saying that. We do a video of it, so you can pull it down from YouTube and watch it, and then fill out a paper with Kim at the curb desk, and then you can be set up. It's got questions on there, so you actually have to watch it. Just saying. She's not going to give you a percentage grade, but she might go, I wonder if number 3 might be a different answer, and talk to you about that. Drop off and pick up. Any questions about that? How's that going for everybody?
Surprisingly well.
Surprisingly well. A lot of cars, right? A lot of people. There is a process. It is really hard when you're running late and you're in the back of the line and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get, help that process. It goes pretty quick if everyone stays in the routine. If you have any concerns about where you're parking, a lot of times people get into their own routine with that. Some like to come early and park and back in the parking spot.